We're in June, and June is not about wounds anymore. May was about wounds. May was about triggers you never traced, the forgiveness you rushed, the grief you skipped over, the closure you were still waiting from the people who were never going to give it to you. That was necessary work, hard work, but necessary. The kind of work that changes you quietly. But June is different. June is about desires. The ones you've buried, the ones you've minimized, the ones you told yourself were too much, too big, too selfish, too late. And before we go anywhere with this month, I need you to start with the thing I see most often in women I work with: pretending. Not the obvious kind, not the kind where you're lying to everyone around you, the quiet kind, the internal kind, the kind where you look at your own life and convince yourself you're fine with less than what you actually want. That's where we're starting today. Why women pretend they don't want more. Let me ask you something. When is the last time you said out loud, not in a journal, not in a prayer, but out loud, what you actually want? Not what you're grateful for, not what you're believing God for in some distant future, but what you want right now for your life. For most women, that question creates discomfort because we were not raised in a culture that taught women to want freely. We were raised in a culture that taught women to serve, to give, to sustain, to endure. And somewhere in that teaching, desire got classified as something dangerous, something that you had to be monitored, managed, and in many cases, eliminated. So we learned, you learned to perform. You learned to perform contentment even when you were aching inside. You learned to say, I'm fine, when you were not fine. You learned to redirect conversations away from what you wanted because admitting it felt vulnerable, and vulnerability had cost you before. You learned to watch other people step into the opportunities and tell yourself you didn't really want those things anyway. But guess what? You did want them, and you still do. I need you to stop pretending otherwise. I want to slow this down because the pretending didn't start with you. For many women, that message, wanting more is wrong, came very early. Maybe it came from a mother who sacrificed everything, never received anything back, and modeled that as the definition of love. Maybe it came from a faith community that equated desire with selfishness and selflessness with holiness. Maybe it came from relationships where every time you expressed what you needed, you were made to feel like a burden. Maybe it came from poverty or scarcity, environments where wanting more felt like a betrayal of those who had less. Whatever the origin, you received a message. And the message was your desires are secondary or dangerous or shameful. And you adapted. Like the intelligent, capable, emotional, aware woman you are, you adapted to survive the environment you were in. You learned how to function without asking for too much, how to be the strong one, the capable one, the one who holds it all together without falling apart. And guess what? It worked for a season. But here's the thing about adaptations: they are for survival, not for thriving. And what kept you in safe in one season can hold you hostage in the next. I want to make this practical because the pretending doesn't always look obvious. It looks like staying in career that's safe but not aligned and telling yourself you're being responsible. It looks like watching someone else step into the opportunity that felt like yours and saying, good for them, while something inside of you goes quiet. Hmm. It looks like having a dream you've never told anyone, not because you forgot it, but because saying it out loud makes it real. And real things can disappoint you. It looks like pouring yourself into everybody else's vision while your own vision collects dust. That's me. That. It looks like downplaying your achievements so others don't feel uncomfortable. It looks like beginning sentences with, this might be too much, but, or, I know this sounds crazy, but, before you even finish your own thoughts. That is pretending. And most of us are so practiced at it, we don't even notice it anymore. We've normalized the smallness, we've made peace with the silence, and we've called it maturity. It's not maturity. It is self abandonment. And it's time to tell the truth about what it is costing you. But let me tell you what nobody talks about. The cost of suppressing your desires is not that you fail to achieve them. The cost is that you slowly become disconnected from yourself. Years pass, opportunities pass, relationships pass, versions of yourself pass. And because the loss happens gradually, you do not always notice it. Mhm. You keep telling yourself, maybe later, when life settles down, when the children are older, when I have more money, when God gives me another sign. And while you are waiting, your life keeps moving. Some of you are grieving opportunities you never took, risk you never accepted, dreams you never pursued, and conversations you never had. Not because they were impossible, but because somewhere along the way, you convinced yourself that wanting them was wrong. Not that you failed, not that you were rejected, but that you spent years standing on the sidelines of the life God was inviting you to participate in. You were present for your life, but you were not fully living it. I want to be honest with you. I spent years, decades, pretending I did not want more. I told myself I was content, that I was trusting God. Desires had for more visibility, more impact, more financial freedom were somehow indicators of pride or impatience. And so I managed them. I kept them quiet. I served diligently in rooms where I was underestimated and told myself that was faithfulness. Hmm. But the truth, I was afraid. Afraid that wanting more, I was ungrateful for what I had, afraid that speaking my desires out loud would invite disappointment, afraid that the version of me who wanted more was somehow less spiritual than the version who needed nothing. Yep, me. What I eventually had to learn, and what I want you to hear today, is that my desires were not a distraction from my purpose. They were pointing me toward it. And the years I spent suppressing them weren't humble years, they were hidden years. That's the difference. Let me bring in the emotional intelligence piece here because this matters. Your brain is designed to protect you. We agree? Say yes. And if in your history, wanting things has been followed by pain, rejection, disappointment, shame, being told you were too much, your brain learns to shut desire down before it can cause that pain again. This is called adaptive suppression. This is a protective mechanism, and it was smart. It served you, right? But here's the psychological cost. When you suppress desire chronically, you don't just suppress the longing, you suppress the signal. Desire is directional, it is how the internal world communicates with you what you need, what you value, what you were built to move toward. When you cut off access to desire, you cut off access to direction. And women who have suppressed their desires for long enough often describe the same thing. They feel flat, unmotivated, like they're going through the motions of life that technically looks fine, but doesn't feel like theirs. That flatness is not laziness. That flatness is not ingratitude. That flatness is what happens when the compass has been silenced. And the only way to restore direction is to restore access to desire, not to manage it, not to wait for it to be holy enough, to acknowledge it, to say, I want this. I have been wanting this. And that wanting is not something I need to be ashamed of. I want to address something directly. For many women, desire has been categorized as a spiritual problem. You've been taught that wanting things is a sign of misplaced focus. That desire is what pulls you away from God. But I want you to look at that belief very carefully because there is a difference. You want to know the difference? There is a difference between disordered desire and sacred desire. Oh, yes, I said that. Disordered desire is the kind that takes away from others, that pushes and that pursues things at any cost, that is rooted in ego, fear, and comparison. But sacred desire is different. Sacred desire is that God given pull toward purpose. It's the longing that says, there is more. I was meant to do more. I was meant to be more. I was meant to contribute. The longing is not your enemy. The longing is your internal GPS. And the women I've watched transform, truly transform, were the ones who finally stopped fighting it and started following it. For the next 4 weeks, we are going to dismantle the lies that have kept your desires silenced. Week 1, we're naming the pretending. That's what we did today. Week 2, we're dismantling the lie that desire is selfish. Week 3, we're talking about what has happened, what has already been lost because you stayed invisible. And week 4, we're ending where this has to end with you. Stop apologizing for your own growth. This month is not comfortable. Nope. But it's necessary because you have spent enough time pretending, and the world is waiting for the version of you that stops. So here's your assignment this week. I want you to complete one sentence without editing it, without qualifying it, without softening it. You ready? Here's the sentence. If I stopped pretending, I don't want more, I would admit that I want, write everything that comes up. Fill the page. Don't ask if it's realistic yet. Don't ask if it's godly yet. Don't run through the filter of what other people will think. Just let yourself want something out loud on paper without apology. And when the guilt comes, because, oh, it will come, don't fight it. Just notice it. Say, I see you. I know where you came from, but you're not in charge today. Because you cannot move towards what you refuse to acknowledge. And this week, we are acknowledging. Before you do this exercise, I need you to understand something. You cannot build a life around desires you refuse to admit exist. You cannot steward a vision you keep minimizing. You cannot pray over a future you are unwilling to name. And some of you are waiting for God to reveal something He has already placed in your heart. You keep asking for confirmation. You keep asking for permission. You keep asking for another sign when you actually, what you need is honesty. Because the truth is, many of you already know what you want. Hello, somebody. You've known for years the promotion, the business, the degree, the relationship, the healing, the visibility, the impact, the freedom. Shall I go on? The reason this month feels uncomfortable is not because you do not want what you want. It is because you saying it out loud removes the ability to hide from it. And that is where transformation begins. If this is resonating, if you are sitting with this and something in you is waking up, I want you to know that we are going deeper. On July 16th, the Why I Am Stuck Masterclass is for the women who has done enough surviving and finally ready to understand what has been keeping her from the life she actually wants. We are not going to talk around it. We are going to name it, locate it, and build a real path through it. Now, spots are limited and the date is getting closer. I will list the registration link in the comments. Before we go, June is about desire. The desires you buried, the desires you minimized, the desires you convinced yourself were too much, too late, too unrealistic, or too selfish. This month, we are bringing them back into the light because a woman who has disconnected from her desires becomes disconnected from her direction. And a woman who finally tells the truth about what she wants becomes dangerous in the best possible way. Next week, we are going after one of the biggest lies many women have ever believed, that desire and devotion to God cannot exist in the same heart. And if that lie has been shaping your life, your relationships, your calling, or your future, you do not want to miss what comes next. See you next week.